Good morning, students. In this present class, I would like to introduce the concept of understanding the sector. Okay, I have two objectives. For introducing the notion of or understanding of what is sector is. The first objective is that what is the relevance? What is the relevance of introducing the sectoral understanding within your project? Number one. Okay, what is the relevance? What is the relevance of introducing the understanding of sector within the project? The first relevance is that sectoral understanding, which would give you the holistic understanding of your project. What is this your project is all about? Your project basically attempts to understand the engineering problem. Always the engineering problem attempts to address the industry as well as the societal problems. So, when you understand the sector, it would give you a kind of an overall understanding of a different set of aspects. What is this different set of aspects is that it may give you or introduce an idea of what is this production is all about. What is the very notion of the distribution? What is the problem of consumption? Okay, so this would gives you a kind of an economic perspective on the one hand. At the same time, it also engages you with how your engineering problem would attempt to solve certain social issues, socio-economic issues, solving the vital problems. So the relevance of understanding the sector is that it would give you a kind of a holistic understanding about the project which you are trying to or attempting to do. The second understanding is that it will help you from the point of view or from the perspective of the labor market. The sectoral understanding, which will give you the holistic understanding, which will make you to look at yourself better in the labor market in terms of what? For instance, tomorrow you are going to face a certain interview. So it will help you in answering the various, for instance, from the point of view of the industry, market, state. So this will give you a kind of when you are going to face the interview. So you will be able to better understand, analyze the way the industry is moving on, how the market is located, what is the state contribution is all about. It will help you in interviews or in getting various, for instance, internships in universities, various other universities. Or it will help you in, for instance, further research. If you want to do research on the same engineering problem at the level of MTech as well as in the PhD, it will help your research. At the same time, you can also come up with startup ideas. So this is how the sectoral understanding, which will make you to feel better within the labor market point of view. Okay, so this is what the basic objectives. One is that it will give you a kind of a holistic ideas. The other one is about it will locate you and your ideas within the labor market very well. Okay, so in terms of getting in answering the interviews, in in getting the internships or research for the research you want to do, or startups, ideas, or anything which you have for the future, the future entrepreneurial activities. So this is how the sectoral understanding which is going to help you. Okay, so now are coming to the very focus of it, coming to the very focus of this present class. Very focus of this present class is that coming to your project, all your project, either it deals with two different things. One is it focuses on something which is a kind of coming up with a kind of a product or a process. Whether you want to develop a kind of product technologies or a process technologies, on the other hand, you are also trying to look at what kind of a services which we could offer to the public. Okay, so this is where the project is engaged on. At the same time, you are trying to look at this product process as well as the summit focus with three different things. One is in terms of the knowledge requirement. Whether you focus on the service, whether you focus on the process or the product, the first one is that it's a knowledge. What is the knowledge requirement? The second one is that industrial point of view. The industrial point of view is maybe a kind of when you are trying to look at it from the manufacturing or from the production point of view. The third one is that it's the market dimensions, that is deals with the customer's point of view, and you will be like able to, with this three different aspects, you can connect it to two different point of views. One is trying to understand the supply side point of view. The other one is from the demand side point of view. This supply side is always trying to look at it from the production. The demand side is always from the consumption. You are trying to understand the viability of your project, viability of your project from these two point of views. Okay, so what is this viabilities? What do we mean by viabilities? How do we perceive the viability of the particular project or particular engineering project is all about? The viability is in terms of, you will be trying to look at it from the different angles, different point of views. Always the viability in terms of number one, with the project, with your engineering project. Always the question is that whether my project is able to address the socio-economic problems or not, whether it is able to touch the very idea of this socio-economic problem or not. The second is that trying to forecast, or trying to predict the future growth point of view. For instance, the future growth point of view, suppose something, your project is more relevant to the industry, so probably you will be able to look at it from the point of view of the firm. Okay, the company is the point of view. At the same time, you are also trying to look at the project from the technological point of view, whether my project is able to address certain technological issues or not. At the same time, the third one, which will be more focused on the learning point of view. This is very, very crucial. That means each and every project is said to be a kind of a beginning of a kind of a certain investigation process. That beginning is to up with a learning. How long? Lifelong learning. Okay, this lifelong learning is that I come up with a kind of an engineering knowledge. That engineering knowledge is able to address certain socio-economic problems of the society. Then when I go into implement it, I'm going to get kind of new ideas, new set of ideas. So I am going to kind of keep on in the loop and trying to revive my ideas, revive my technologies. So this is how far it's going to give me a kind of an opportunity for learning certain things. So I'll also try to look at this viability from the point of view of the learning. Finally, I will be able to come from the point of view of the profit making. Whether am I able to create any, for instance, profit or kind of create an employment opportunities. Suppose if the thought is, if your project idea is to come up with a startup. Okay, so this is purely from the startup point of view. And this would be from the point of view of, for instance, R&D point of view. And this is from the society point of view. So always try to think that whether your project touches the very idea of the subtle problems and the very idea of the research and development, how far the project is going to help me in understanding certain research which is happening, which is ongoing, how far I'm going to develop certain things from it. So R&D point of view, and then finally I'll be able to link that the firm and the employment opportunities or profit making bodies, it's always a kind of a secondary. So the primary idea is that how far it is socially relevant, how far it is socio-economically relevant. The second one is that how far academically relevant. And the second question is that. The third question would be a kind of the profit making bodies and the employment opportunities which are going to create it. So this all will become a project much more relevant for the present context. Okay, so from here only we will be moving on to understanding that two versions of understanding the innovations. This is very crucial. Two versions of, because this is how you will be locating your project within the model of innovation. So how to locate your project within the model of innovations? There are two models of innovations, primarily. There are two models of innovations. One is always it's said to be a kind of a linear model. The linear model always follows a kind of a trajectory. Okay, it's a kind of a trajectory moving from one position to another position. For instance, developing the science would be the primary aim. First, we will be focusing on the knowledge aspect. Then, we will be slowly moving on to the technology. The technology is about always the kind of a practical, whether the idea has any practical use or not. The utility, the purpose of the utility will be there. And then the position is that we move from one stage to another stage. The third stage is the stage of innovation. The third stage of an innovation is a commercialization. So the commercialization is that what is the kind of a fundamental flaw or a kind of difficulties with this model is that it's going to take kind of consumes a lot of time. Okay, so you initiate the knowledge at one point of a time. For instance, today you are going to initiate the knowledge, and slowly you are going to develop. First, I'll be more focusing on the knowledge development. And I use the knowledge for the technology, the practical purposes, and then I will be finally coming to the commercializations. For instance, the idea to the market, the time which takes between the point of the arrival of the idea or the origin of the idea and the idea which reaches the market. So this is going to take a kind of a lot of time. Time would be the barriers. At the same time, this is all or not something which is interactive. Something which just moves from one person or one institute to kind of another institution, and it moves on from one to another one. one actor to another actor it moves on. So the time factor, along with a lot of complexities, the problems are much more. Okay, so we move on to that. The next level of the model is that's interactive model. This interactive model is that it's highly interactive in nature. The highly interactive here is that it's science, technology, and innovation. We will be like able to develop the technology or the science or the knowledge from the point of view of practicality. So what is the practicality of my ideas? What is the practicality of my thought or thinking? Okay, so this is always a kind of an interactive in nature. This interactive model is, you can keep it very simply, where the different set of actors are collaborative or participate in the product development or in the product process development or in the technology development process. First is it's an academia, industry, market, states. You can keep it as aims. So academia is about university, that is knowledge creators, you can call it as. This is where you all are located. Academicians. Then the I refers to the industry or the production process. The third is about the market point of view. M for market, that is consumer. Then S for the state. State is a kind of a policy maker, regulators. So this all something a kind of they all interactively involved in the technology development process. Okay, from here we move on to the next understanding, that is how to perceive what kind of a project it is, what kind of a project you are focused on. Okay, whether your project is a kind of a very radical in nature, or your project is focused on incremental aspects of technology, or it is disruptive. The fourth one would be a kind of a grassroots or a kind of a bottom of the pyramid focus. Where your project is exactly located. Suppose if your project, if you're able to say, if you're argued that no, my project is very radical in nature, okay, very kind of a radical in terms of a breakthrough. Breakthrough, okay, that means that the technology which you are exactly trying to develop or you are engaged with, that's going to create a kind of a ripple effects, a kind of a spiral effects, you can tell it. Spiral effects on multiple levels. You will be able to see at the society, economy, culture, politics. So this is how the idea of the radical innovation is all about. Okay, what is the idea of the radical innovation is this? It's going to create a kind of a spiral effect at the society, economy, culture, politics, at every level. For instance, the smartphone would be a good example. Would be a kind of a good example of it. Okay, and then even for instance, today's social media can be a. This is something kind of a radical in nature. At the same time, suppose if you say that no, it's not something which is a radical, but it's incremental. That means improving the conditions, improving the certain conditions of production or kind of in certain situations, it's going to improve. That's all something which is kind of an incremental in nature. At the same time, what is a kind of a disruptive innovation is that the disruptive innovation highly focused on new markets, creating new market. It's more or less focused on something which is a kind of creating a new market by reducing the cost of the product. Very good example is that the Maruti cars. Each and every household, middle class, okay, is supposed to have a kind of a car. Okay, this is something which is what the thought which is being created within the Indian market. So the Maruti car would be a very good example of the middle class identity. And later, if you look at after opening our economy, you will be able to see that the Sectoral cars, which captured, which captured that part of the Maruti cars market. Okay, that's what we call it as a kind of a disruptive in nature, new markets, which would create new set of markets for your particular product or a service which is you are trying to focus on. Finally, it's based on the bottom of the pyramid. What is this bottom of the pyramid? Is highly focused on the grassroots innovations. These innovations are supposed to uplift the socio-economic positions of marginalized communities. So you have to clearly, you can clearly specify that what kind of a project it's your. Okay. So what kind of a project it is all about? Whether it is your project deals with the radical innovations, or it can be deals with the kind of an incremental in nature, or it is disruptive, like it's going to create a kind of a new market, new customers which is going to create it, or it's going to like uplift the socio-economic positions of marginalized communities. Okay, so this is, you can clearly look at your project from these 4 point of views. Okay, and from here only we will be like more enter into the idea of what is sector is. What is sector? What do we mean by the term sector is about? The sector is always which is a kind of a set of activities. What is a sector? Which means I would like to bring Franco Malerba's understanding on sectoral systems of innovations. From there I'm trying to derive this lecture. So what is sector is? His understanding is that sector, which means it's a set of activities. Of activities in and around products as well as the services. Either these activities focus on service, products as well as the services. Okay. At the same time, sector shares common knowledge platform. There is a common knowledge always it shares a kind of a common knowledge platform. For instance, if you want to produce a kind of a particular product, okay. So, for instance, if it is a confectionery industries, suppose if you want to produce biscuits, so you are supposed to know that what kind of a biscuits you want to produce, whether it's a packaged biscuits or kind of what kind of it's a wafers biscuits. There are many biscuits out there. So you will be able to know that what kind of biscuits which you want to produce. At the same time, suppose if you want to offer a services, okay, so for instance, offering a services like delivering food, Okay, so this is all something which is a kind of a services. Swiggy is a very good example of it. It's offering services to the delivering the food to the localites. Okay, so these services, these industry or these firms would share a kind of a common knowledge platform. Okay, always the sector refers to a different set of activities which is in and around a particular product or group of products or services. At the same time, it shares a common knowledge platform. The common knowledge platform is on how to produce the market, how to produce the product, how to take it to the market. Okay, what are the traders, what are the traders are involved, what kind of a suppliers are involved. So this is all what kind of a technologies which is being involved in the production of the particular product. All this are something which is refers to the common knowledge platform. Okay, always the sector is refers to a kind of a larger segment of the economy. Industry is more specific and more focused on very commonality of, there is a kind of a commonality between different set of firms engaged in producing a particular product. For instance, the firm which is being producing biscuits, a group of biscuits, for instance, Britannia biscuits or a kind of a Good Day biscuits. So you will be like able to look at the industry from a specific point of view, the sector from a kind of an more kind of a generalized point of view. Okay, so I'll be able to like give an example of one sector. Okay, for instance, the sector is in terms of an energy sector. Within energy sector, you will be like, now we have a different set of you can divide this energy sector into two. One is conventional, another one is non-conventional. Conventional, non-conventional. This conventional is, as you know, that it's coal. Coal is a coal, oil, conventional, and non-conventional is a renewable energy, as solar, wind, biomass. So these are non-conventional in nature. So within this energy sector, you can clearly take solar as a kind of an industry which is specifically focusing on producing, for instance, solar photovoltaic cells or solar photovoltaic technologies. So SPV is an industry. SPV is an industry, and energy sector, which is more specific, which is more focused on producing solar photovoltaic technologies. SPV technologies. The energy sector is more a kind of a larger segment of the economy itself. So now I'll be focusing on what are the characteristics, what are the different set of characteristics. So which means in your projects, you have to clearly specify which sector you are focusing on, what are the industry which you are focusing on. Because always remember that engineering problem it attempts to solve the industry, more kind of an industrial problems. At the same time, it also attempts to solve the technological problems. So here the industrial problems can also be an organizational in nature. Okay. So from here we will be like moving on to the three different characteristics of the sector. Three different characteristics of the sectors. The first characteristics is that knowledge and the technological technological base. That means each sector or each industry, let me more focus on industry. Okay, each industry has a specific knowledge. Okay, at the same time it has a specific technologies. So you should know clearly that which industry you are focusing on. What is the technological base of that industry? What is the knowledge of that industry? So always when you look at that knowledge sense, you are trying to look at the knowledge sense from different multiple angles, as I've said. It should be from the production. It should also touches the consumption, and then moving on to the distributions, as well as various policies, regulations. This all you should keep it as a kind of a knowledge base of the industry. Suppose if you are looking at specifically on the technology, take for example the SPV industry. Solar photovoltaic industry. There are different set of technologies available. For instance, the first generation. The first generation, there is a first generation of the technology, there is a second generation, there is a third generation, and the fourth and the fifth are there. Okay. The first generation of the SPV technology is that it's based on the silicon. Okay. And the second one, the silicon further divides into two. So it is monocrystalline, and then other one is the polycrystalline silicon. Then the third one is the second generation technology deals with the thin film. This thin film has different generations of the technology. That one generation of the technology is that different set of technologies. One is amorphous and cadmium telluride. So these are some of the technologies which comes under the second generation. And the third generation is a kind of a mix or a kind of a hybrid technologies. The hybrid is a kind of a mix of polymer and non-polymer technologies. Okay, so it is always a kind of a mixed in nature. This third generation of the technology is yet to come to the market. Now the industry is predominantly located in the first generation of the technology. Either it is in the production, trying to look at it from the production point of view, or it's from the market point of view. From the market point of view, the first generation technology, silicon technology, is the best technology. At the same time, from the production point of view, it involves, for instance, longer process of production, more than a kind of an 20 to 22 processes are involved in producing the silicon, but it's not, the thin film is not, the process is very short. That's why it's very cost effective in nature. So when you are understanding the sector, okay, when you are working on a technology, when you are working on the technology, first of all try to identify the industry, or try to identify in which sector you are working on. Parallelly, try to understand it, what is the knowledge base, what is the crack that technology from the point of view of the knowledge base. The cracking the knowledge base is that you are trying to look at it from the production point of view, consumption, distributions point of view, at the same time policy, regulations, these all are, you are trying to look at it from the larger, wider knowledge point of view. At the same time, you are also, as an engineers, you are already working on various levels of technologies. So you know much better on what technologies you are working on. At the same time, you also relate that idea to the industry as well as to the sector, like this, clearly demarcating. Then locate your project exactly whether you are working on, for instance, your project idea work located in monocrystalline or polycrystalline, or you're more focused on the hybrid technologies. So you should specifically talk or explain about the location, your project locations within the technology base of the particular industry or the particular sector. This is the first level understanding. This is the first level understanding. Okay, that means suppose if you are working on hybrid technology, you know what kind of other technologies are prevailing within that particular industry. Okay, so you have a very clear-cut idea. For instance, suppose if you are working on a hybrid, okay, whether the hybrid is possible, viable from the point of view of the production, from the point of view of the consumption, or whether the state would allow me to engage in the production of technology which is I'm going to do it in terms of hybrid technologies or not. So this will give me a kind of a very, very broader, very larger understanding, holistic understanding which will give me. Okay, so the next is that you are also supposed to know the actors and the networks. Different set of actors and networks involved in production and the consumption of particular goods, production, distribution, consumption of a particular technology. Okay. Number one is that I'll be having a very simplified classification. One is market-oriented actors. The second one is non-market-oriented actors. What is this who are these market-oriented actors? I just put it three different people. One is firm. Market-oriented actors always focus on money making. Okay, they produce a product for the purpose of commercializing, for the purpose of profit making. Okay, so the firm one, at the same time, input suppliers, traders. Okay. Suppose, for instance, the firm is producing module. Okay, SPV module which is being produced. So I am supposed to know that who is the supplier which is going to give me the cell, SPV cell, because without having the SPV cell, I cannot make the module. So I should know the input supplier. At the same time, once the module is produced, I am supposed to know the traders, so that the trader will be communicating to the consumers. So I should have this market-oriented understanding. At the same time, I'm also supposed to know different actors, non-market actors involved in the production process. One is always, it starts with the kind of regulatory authorities. What is the regulatory mechanism which is prevailing? You should understand. What kind of a mechanism, regulatory mechanism, which is prevailing within that particular industry or particular sector? Okay. Suppose if the regulatory authority places some restrictions on producing certain product, so you cannot produce it. You cannot produce that particular product. So you should know what the regulatory mechanism is all about. At the same time, you are also trying to understand the university or academy. So by default, you're not here. By default, you located yourself within academia. So academic point of view is that your knowledge point of view. Okay, you are the creator of the knowledge. So you are trying to link it through all the different set of actors. At the same time, the understanding of the state from the point of view of the policies, various departments in terms of the ministries, okay, which connects the production process. At the same time, you are also connecting it to the trade associations. Trade associations, for instance, semiconductor associations in the case of an SPV industry, as well as what is the trade union point of views. So this all are something we should have a kind of a larger understanding. Always these different actors, systematically interact with each other. That means your project, suppose if you really want to do the project, to come up with a kind of an novel ideas, that means you must collect different set of data from these different set of actors. Okay, how do they interact? How do they interact? And what kind of measures, what kind of policies, what kind of strategies do they have? So based on that, you will be able to better guess or better analyze, better take steps in, suppose if there is a crisis, okay, so you want to address the crisis. I'm not able to address the crisis unless I know all these actors' point of view. Suppose if I want tomorrow, if I want, for instance, developing a vaccine, okay, for instance, developing a vaccine is that academia has the knowledge. At the same time, I should know that whether the industry is ready for the production or not. Okay, so that academia should know the regulatory point of view in producing certain vaccine. At the same time, they also know the production's point of view. Okay, whether the industry is ready to accept it or not. So the mutual interaction between these different set of actors is going to help us to gain or to give a lot of knowledge, information on the product as well as the process and the service development. Okay, so this is an actor and networks, you should know it. And the third aspect is that institution. Third aspect is that it's an institution. It's an institution. What is institution is that? It's kind of an norm or a kind of a guidelines. It's a kind of norms which regulate your behaviors. Okay. These norms are always, we can divide it into formal, informal norms. Okay, formal, informal norms. The formal norms are which is you have to follow it. For instance, in certain industries, for instance, e-waste. Suppose somebody is working on electronic waste. They should know what are the norms which is prevailing in executing the electronic waste. Okay, more again from formal. There are a lot of environmental laws which is being involved in segregating the electronic waste. So at the same time, this electronic waste segregation is highly informal industry. It's a more kind of an informal practices. So if you look at that informal practices, when you go to a kind of a segregation place, electronic waste segregation place, you will be able to see that how they don't follow very systematically in segregating the electronic waste. That also causes a lot of a kind of an environmental pollutions. Okay, so this formal informal interactions, the formal informal interactions would always set the three different things. One is it sets the cognition. The second is action. Third is mediation. Okay, formal norms as well as an informal norms. In any of the sector, you take any sector, irrespective of any of the sectors, always there would be a kind of a formal norms as well as informal norms. This will be a kind of an interfacing with each other. So when this interfacing with each other, it sets the mind of an individual. Here individual is a person. At the same time, it also sets the mind of the firm or the industry. Okay, so always the formal informal norms guides the cognition process, that's understanding, at the same time their action, practices and the mediations, the communications. Okay, so if you are able to know or explore, for instance, you can apply this in for instance, electronic waste, or for instance stubble burning. There are many like if you want to produce a kind of an supply a kind of pure drinking waters, each and every aspect, okay, in every sector involves this formal and informal norms. At the same time, you can clearly apply this and see whether how far it is relevant to your particular project. Okay. At the same time, after trying to understand the three different characteristics of this sector, how one is supposed to execute this, how one is supposed to execute it at your project level. So that's a final one. First is that when you write the report, first clearly understand that what is the technology which you are working with. What is the technology which you are working on, and how your technology is relevant to the contemporary problems. One, how it is relevant to the contemporary socio-economic problems. Then you can tell that how do you define, how do you locate this technological problem as a kind of an engineering problems. So once this is set, okay, that means you are trying to explore the very idea of technological domains. Technological plus knowledge domain. At the same time, along with this, who is going to be benefited if it has been developed? Who is going to be benefited if the technology is being developed? So this is the first part of the introduction. Then you move on to a kind of the next is that you will be able to explore the theoretical framework. When you explore the theoretical